Yo, hello everybody. We're gonna make sweet potato and plantain chips. Okay, let's do this. All right, right there I'm peeling a plantain. They're not too easy to peel. What I did was I made one slit down the side of it, and they're easier if you make 2 or 3 slits, but I only want to make one because sometimes you cut deep into the fruit and the chips will break apart. You know, this way we're gonna have round chips. Otherwise, we'd have quarter chips if I made too many slits. But anyway, these things you find at the store. You know, make sure that when you buy them, they're green and hard. You know, they got to be hard. If they're soft, forget it. You don't want that. All right. So, unfortunately, I didn't realize how labor intense this stuff is to make. I forgot all about it. You know what I mean? I used to make them all the time, but I forgot that this is going to take you a while. This is kind of special stuff. Plus, you know, you need a slicer. You can't slice them by hand. There's no way you're going to get them that thin. Now, what you can do is you can use a julienne slicing thing. I'll show you later. It comes up in the video. You know what it is? It's one of those little plastic things. I bought the thing for 20 bucks. It has all these different heads on it where you can slice or julienne, or you know, it's one of those things. So in other words, what you want is you want either thin or julienne thin. You know, you can't really cut them by hand. It's not going to work. With the sweet potatoes, you can cut by hand. You can make real skinny French fries out of them. But you know, it's hard to mix French fries with the shoestrings of the plantains. It doesn't work. Just buy a slicer. They're cheap. I got that thing for, I don't know what it was, 50 bucks I think. You know, it's a little plastic thing that it just works, you know. Okay, so anyway, there's the sweet potatoes now. They're going into the water. The plantains also go into the water. They're very starchy, plantains are. So if you don't rinse them, well, they might stick together when they get into the fryer. You know, so it's best to rinse them. Let them soak in some water for a little while. Pour them into a coffee strainer and then dry them off on a towel with some paper towels on top. All right, here we go. Here comes the plantains. And I'm going to let the sweet potatoes drain there. Now I'm going to dry them with the with the paper towel. Oh boy. All right, now here goes my fryer. Remember I told you I was going to throw the oil out, which I did. And now I'm going to fill it with peanut oil. Okay, now look, on the fryer it tells you the level of the oil. Well, I went about 1.5 inches over that, over the level, because I'm going to stand here the whole time and I'm going to make sure that everything goes good. Plus I have the lid to the fryer in case something happens. I put the lid on, and I also have a fire extinguisher nearby. The reason I'm saying all this is because these chips are fried at 400. 400 is hot. In fact, I think there's 2 times here when I put in chips and I put in too many, and it almost overflows. But what I did was I pulled out the thermostat. You know, I pulled out the electricity right away, and then I just waited, and I was getting ready, you know, to put the lid on if I needed it. But if you disconnect the electricity right away, it should go down by itself. I think I put the spider in there with it so that would cool down a little bit. All right, here we go. These are the plantains. Now you got to try to separate them. You know, if you just throw them all in there, you're gonna, it's not gonna work. You're gonna end up with clumps. I got to tell you, these plantains and sweet potatoes are the best thing ever. And I kid you not, man. I love these things. I don't buy potato chips. I really don't. You know, this is what I do. Although I haven't made them in a while, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to start again. But like I said, they are a little labor intensive. I mean, well, first of all, my deep fryer is kind of small. So I can only get so many in there at a time. If I try to put too many, they're all going to stick together. You know what I mean? I'm not going to get anywhere. All right, now look, I'm using the lid right now only because the fryer, I want the fryer to heat back up. So I'm not going to use the lid much, I don't think, anymore through this. Once the fryer gets hot, it pretty much stays hot. Okay, now it's very important that you stir them. Okay, see, I'm putting the basket on, but I'm also stirring them with the spider. Very important that you stir them. You can't just put them in there and leave them alone. It's not going to work. They're going to clump together. Like I said, this is a pretty much hands-on thing. You can't really walk away from it. So if you're doing something else, like chopping something or doing something else, this is okay. You can do this on the side. Okay, now you see the color. Okay, let me tell you when they're done. Here's what happens. When you first put them in like this right now, what happens is the oil and the plantains, there's a lot of activity, as you can see. Okay, now you put the thing on, the strainer, you put that on top of it, and you still have a lot of activity. See all the bubbles? All right. Now, when the bubbles almost stop, when the water is gone out of the plantains, that's when the bubbles are going to stop. So, I mean, you don't want to get it completely no bubbles at all, but you want to get it down to where there's very little activity in the grease. And when you do that, they're done. There's no other way to tell you how they're done. Of course, they're going to float to the top right away, so that doesn't work. A lot of things, when they float, they're done. Well, this isn't going to work with plantains or sweet potatoes. What you have to do is you just have to wait until there's very few bubbles, and you can actually hear it. You can hear when the water is boiled out of the plantains. The grease just forces the water out, the heat. All right, now you can see there's very little bubbling action. It's coming up close to being done, I think. I don't know why this isn't in fast motion. I thought it all was. Or is it? I don't know. I can't tell. Anyway, I got one more batch of plantains. There you go. Look at that color, man. Woo, doggies. Yeah, you can tell. Like I say, there's very little... whoa. See that right there? That almost went over. That almost boiled over. But I pulled the electricity out right away, and that was enough to cool it. And it stopped. But you got to be careful when you're frying. That's why I was telling you last week, you have to have a thermostat. That's the thing that I pulled out, was the thermostat. The thermostat tells you how hot it is. It tells you how, it asks you how hot you want it. And, if you try to do this in a pot, man, good luck. That's all I could say. Because you never know if it's too hot or not hot enough. If you have a candy thermometer that goes to 400, you could use that in a pot. But again, you just have to be careful. You got to watch everything. Okay, so those are the last of the plantains, and then the sweet potatoes are going in, and then we'll mix them up at the end. Now look, you could put straight salt on here. That's up to you. Plantains have very little taste. They have less taste than a potato chip. Same thing with sweet potato chips. They don't have a lot of taste. All right, there we go. Take them out. Okay, there goes the sweet potatoes. Oh, look at that. Oh, man, it's almost went over. Oh, man. That was luck. Okay, so anyway, they have very little taste. So they're going to absorb any taste. They're going to take on the taste that you give them. For instance, you could add cinnamon sugar. So, first of all, salt, and then cinnamon sugar on the chips, on the plantains and the sweet potatoes. You could put popcorn butter flavored salt. That's what I'm using on these. You'll see at the end. I put popcorn butter flavored salt. Okay, then you could use taco seasoning. You know, you can use just about anything that you can think of. You know, I mean, they're excuse me, they're two bland items. They're fairly bland. Excuse me, and so they're going to take on whatever seasoning you put on them. You know, you could make your own kind of seasoning. Put that on there. You know, who knows? But I'm using popcorn butter salt and regular salt. I've seasoned the plantains as I put them in, layer upon layer. I've seasoned them, you know, with just regular salt. At the end, I'm going to use the popcorn stuff. Okay, now here's the trick with sweet potatoes. Is when you take them out, they're not going to be crisp. They have to cool, and then they're going to be crisp. Then they crisp up real nice. Here, as I'll show you right here. Oh man, these things are so good. Okay, so they won't be crisp until they cool. But now you can see what's going on in the pan. I mean, in the fryer. There's hardly any activity going on, which is exactly what you want. When the water is cooked out of the sweet potatoes, and the same thing with the plantains, then they're done. It's really hard to tell you when they're done, because if you took one out right now and tried it, it would be soft. It's not crisp. They don't get crisp until they get cold. But you could tell by the color. You know, the color is like a brown. It turns kind of brown instead of orange. You know, this is really a labor-intense item that I really don't know if you guys would make it or not. For me, I love it. I don't buy potato chips. So, you know, if you're having a special party or something, it'd be a good time to make some of these. Also, if you have a bigger deep fryer, you know, I could have probably done this in half the time with a big deep fryer. But, you know, all right, now, again, like I said, it's very important to stir them. You got to stir them. You can't have them sticking together. If you do, what's going to happen is 4 or 5 of them will stick together and they will never get crisp. You know, they're going to be kind of, I don't know what to call it, not crisp. So I'm stirring the hell out of these. You put the lid on, don't force it down, don't do anything, just put it on and let the weight of itself just go down, and that way it'll cook on all 4 sides of the chips, or I'm sorry, on both sides of the chips. Okay, and again, you can tell by the activity of the grease. Look, it's still boiling like crazy. These are nowhere near done. You still got quite a ways to go. Once the water comes out, you'll be able to hear it. The deep fryer will, you know, the deep fryer kind of crackles when there's water. So once the water's boiled out, it becomes very silent. And that's when they're done. Little activity. You can tell by the color. And wham. You know, they deep fry for about, I'm going to say about 10 minutes. I don't know, I didn't time it. But it seemed like about 10 minutes. Maybe 8 minutes. But I'll tell you, man, these things are so good. I love them. I mean, you don't get any better than this. I'm telling you. You know, they do sell banana and plantain chips in the plastic bags. And if you do make these, you'll understand why they're so expensive in the plastic bags. Because it takes a while. This is not something, that you're going to do in 15 minutes. That ain't going to happen. Here, that's the thing I was talking about. If you want to make, if you want to put a plantain on that and make little julienne things, you could do that. That thing I just showed you there was a slicer. Okay, now here's the chips. This is what we got out of 2 plantains and 4 small sweet potatoes. They were small. And hold on one second, I'm going to pull the paper towels out. There's quite a bit there. It doesn't look like a lot, but there's quite a bit. Okay, now here comes the butter salt for the popcorn butter salt. Now don't forget, I've already salted them with regular table salt. This is just to top it off. Man, these things are so good. I love them. Cinnamon sugar. Woohoo! Cinnamon sugar is dynamite on these things. Okay, there you go. Just mix them up. I mean, that's a pretty big. Let's say you were buying them in a bag. That's a pretty big bag. That's kind of a lot. That's a big bowl. Okay, now look. People ask me, why do I save these stupid things from the coffee? Well, this is why. Because I'm going to end up with plantain and sweet potato chips for the next 5 days. Oh man, I love them. All right, you guys, if you do it, be careful. You're frying them at 400, so be careful. If that oil ignites, man, you're gonna be in you're not gonna be happy. I can tell you that. All right, I'm gonna put a little bit left. That's what I'm gonna eat. What's in that bowl right there? Oh, see, there's a raw one on the right and a cooked one on the left. Those are sweet potatoes. So you could tell by the color. I guess not. I mean, it's not the best lighting. But anyway. All right, now look. You might be able to find this stuff in bags somewhere around town. I'm sure you can. I've seen plantains in bags and I've seen sweet potato chips in bags. But I got news for you. You're not going to be able to find it any better than this right here. And I know for sure. And I got to go. I got to eat.